Hi there, this is Jen, and thanks so much for stopping by today. If you have ever looked through your stash of embossing powders and not have the color that you wanted to use, this is the video for you. I'm going to share how I tinted this embossing powder to get the color that I wanted, and I will be using for this card the Oh Damn stamp set by Whimsy Stamps. So to tint my embossing powder, it's super easy. I'm just going to use a base of a white powder, and I'm putting that in a little glass bowl. And then I'm taking some watercolor powder that is gold, and it has mica in it. So depending on what you want, it doesn't have to have mica in it. I think it adds a nice little kind of pearlescent shine to the finished product. And then I'm just going to add that dry powder to my white embossing powder to get the tint that I want. And the image I'm going to emboss is the 6x6 tree ring background stamp. And I have taken my Bristol smooth cardstock and prep that with my embossing bag, and I'm going to take some embossing ink, and I put it pretty liberally on all over the place. I wasn't really sure exactly where I was going to place it, but I ended up just putting it down at the side and end up with a partial image on my card panel. And then I'm going to take that tinted embossing powder and spread that on my card. And I didn't want to waste a lot of the embossing powder since I don't have a container to put it in. So I tried to just mix up what I thought would be the right amount for my embossed image, and I end up with not very much left, which is great. And then I'm going to take my heat tool and run that over and melt that embossing powder. And I think it turned out beautifully. Of course, after I did this, I was like, okay, I could have used a brown ink and clear embossed it and gotten the same effect pretty much. But this way, because this powder had mica in it, the image turned out kind of like a pearlescent image, and it's got a little bit of shine and shimmer to it, which I think is really beautiful. But if you didn't have an embossing powder and you wanted to, this is so easy to do. Just basically the same as mixing different embossing powders together. It's just mixing a white embossing powder with another product, which in this case I used dry watercolor powders, which are kind of like dyed powders, and they come in lots of different varieties. The one that I used, again, I had a little bit of mica in it, so it gave it a nice sheen. But I went ahead and I grabbed the beaver in the box and the party hat, and I colored those up with some water-based markers. And this Oh Damn stamp set does have coordinating dies, so I went ahead and I used those to cut those images out. And then I've used a bold ABC die set and cut out the letters OH and then an explanation on some craft colored cardstock. And then I took that same 6x6 tree background and inked that up with some light brown ink. And I think it gives a really cool pattern on those letters. And then I am taking this Wonky stitched rectangle die, and I'm going to use the largest size for my main panel, which is going to be a craft color, and then the smaller panel that I embossed, I am using the next size down of these dies. And I am using some strips to ground my little character there, and so I am just using the little strips that came off of the excess from that die. And then I'm going to place my pieces down kind of as a dry run to make sure I know where I want to place those. A lot of times I will place all my elements on a card and then take a picture and see if I like it. For some reason, it gives me a better visual of what the layout is than actually just looking at the card. I don't know what it is, but I always like to do that. And so now I'm going to adhere all of my pieces. I am using a fine line glue, and so I will be gluing all of those pieces down. And most of the elements on this card are just glued directly to the panel, but for the beaver, I went ahead and I used a little bit of my favorite foam, and then on the hat for the top portion I also used some foam to make it even with the image that's popped up. So I use a foam on the top of the hat and then a little bit of glue on the bottom so that that will adhere to his little head. And then I'm going to take the letters. So the sentiment ends up being O, explanation, and then the sentiments from the stamp set is damn, and this is late. So it says, oh damn, this is late. And the little guy in his party hat. So a belated birthday card. And if you're interested in any of the products that I used today, they will be in the description below. As well, in the description will be all of Whimsy Stamp's social media links. We would love it for you to follow us over on the Facebook page, as well as subscribe to the YouTube channel, where we have the new reveals every release and lots of inspiration from the design team members. So I hope you'll consider subscribing and ringing that bell. And that is it for this card. I added a few embellishments to finish it off, and that will complete it. If you liked this video or found it informative, please go ahead and give a thumbs up. As always, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to spend over here, and I hope to catch you next time.